Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Daniel McComber, and with me today is Sam Taggart, founder of Door-to-Door Con, Door-to-Door Experts, Door-to-Door everything, pretty much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here in your studio recording. So thanks, I guess, for having me to your studio.
No, it worked out. Like I'd way rather do this and not have to travel and just
Yeah.
like I got all the equipment and I might as well use it.
Yeah, no, this is an amazing setup. Well, it's funny. Before this, I was talking to you. Like this setup is like incredible. It's called the Hive, right? Your place here, just massive building, tons of amazing stuff. And I asked you if this was like your hobby, like the videography and stuff, but no, like you're it's not. So to have a studio like this and a space like this is amazing. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to have you on. I mean, one of the things that I'm a huge proponent of is the idea of, education and showing or highlighting people in the sales space who are, who don't have a scarcity mindset, I guess, who are trying to help everyone, not just those in their company, not just even the door-to-door space. You do a lot in other spaces too. And so I feel like there's no one that does that better than you and your brand. Um, but at the same time, there's always a beginning to every story, right? And so I'm sure you didn't start in the industry with this abundance mindset, trying to help everyone per se, right?
Yeah. No, it's been a journey. Like I had a click and maybe I just looked at it different. I'm a competitive cat by nature. We worked at Vivint together and
Yeah.
um I love winning, right? But I realized my winning and competitiveness is probably different than a lot of people's.
Oh,
Like
okay.
a lot of people are like, I want to win and I hope you lose. I'm like, I want
Mm.
to win better, but I hope everybody wins.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I
Yeah.
have like a different level of competitiveness. Like it's more internal with myself
Hmm.
more than it is external. And I think a lot of people in this industry have kind of a unhealthy competitiveness where it's like they're sizing up, they're comparing, they're always like putting people down. And it's like that's what creates these recruiting battles. That's what creates
Yeah.
these animosity. And it's like even within companies, people compete and then it's like they can't be friends. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
and so the year I finished number one at Vivint, I actually started a Facebook group called Can't Knock This. And that's really where it all
Oh,
started.
yeah. That was
And
the original name of your podcast, right?
exactly, it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
OG,
Back in
like,
2017, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the OG name. That
Yeah.
was the OG Facebook group. If you're listening and you have the door to door sales tribe, right?
Yeah.
But that was what it was. And the concept was share tips and tricks. And Vivint shut it all down. Like, Vivint was like, hey, you can't have this Facebook group. You can't
Wow.
do this because of legal reasons. And I was like, oh. And the concept was like, hey, like, why don't it being the top rep, like
Yeah.
everybody comes to you and is like, what's your pitch? What do you do?
Always. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not just the best. Like there's so many good people. Like
Yeah.
let's spotlight people and let's highlight and let's get
Yeah.
other people sharing. And that's really where the idea started. And then when I moved to solar, I realized, oh, nobody's like telling me I can't. And so
Oh,
I kind of ignited it.
yeah.
It had a little bit of momentum. But that's kind of the original like thought process was how do we have abundance in this industry?
Mm.
How do we up level this industry? How do we bring, collaboration, community? And so many of the people fought against that. I mean, the scarcity minds threw rocks. They're like, don't listen to that. Don't go to that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Well, they like not only were not, I guess, promoting it, but they were actively going against it. I
Yeah.
remember we were just talking about how the like some of the companies would literally like have their events at the same time as Door to Door Con to
Yep.
prevent. I mean, I was at a Vivint event at the Salt Palace, and I was like, Door to Door Con was going on at the same time. I'm like, how? What? This is crazy.
Don't think that's a scheduling coincidence.
Yeah,
We book ours a
exactly.
year in advance. Like,
Yeah, it's not like the Salt Palace just takes last minute acceptance.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, it was crazy too because that's actually funny enough. It almost worked against them. That was the first time I even learned what Door to Door Con was, and I was already in the space for like 6 years at that point, and it's crazy. I just again I was at that company and like they didn't promote it or anything. So, well, out of curiosity, you were the number one at Vivint, and so was that urge to try to like I guess bring more people together? I guess also just lining yourself up with like the other kind of top dogs or the number one guys at other companies? Because once you get to the top of a mountain, right, you kind of want to look at like where the other tops are and where the other peaks are. And was that kind of a desire behind it, or?
Yeah, I think like, eagles want to fly with eagles. They don't want to fly with turkeys.
Yeah.
And so often you feel really lonely, and it's fun when you get to go on the jet and fly and do cool trips with the top 10 or like,
Yeah.
I remember fishing trips in Punta Cana with, the top 50 reps or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And like that's cool because you're like, I'm networking with all these other people. But like you said, when you get to the top, it's like, man, there's other people that are actually probably better than you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I meet
Mm-hmm.
the Adam Chances of the world and the, Josh Sutherlands of the world. And there's like people selling even more at other companies. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, wait, I'm at the biggest company, but yet I'm not necessarily the shit. Like
Yeah.
it's so important to stay humble and like,
Yeah.
also just like remember like you always have something to learn.
Mhm.
That year I joined a mastermind and everybody's like,
Oh.
why are you in a mastermind? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. They're like, you're the best. I was like, that is the worst mindset to have, bro.
You
Like,
can't learn anything else from anybody
and,
else.
and to get me to pay 30 grand to be in a mastermind, like it'd be like pulling teeth to get the guy that did 200 accounts, half as me,
Right.
to go. And I'm like, dude, you have the money. Like,
Yeah.
but it's this ego. And I watch in this
Yeah.
industry, there's this like range between 100 and maybe 250, 300, where it's like, I don't need anything. I don't need to
Yeah.
grow. I don't need to learn. I don't need, and I'm over here like, are you effing kidding me? Like, that's when you should be like double and triple and down, is because you can like slide edge a little bit more and all of a sudden it's an exponential growth.
Yeah. No, that's the crazy thing too, is that when you have reps like that, I remember the first year I made it to the dream team of Vivint, right? And I was like so pumped. And I guess I was so laser focused on like my team, my region, my mission, that I never really opened my mind up to like anybody else, even at the company. And so I remember when I first hit that milestone and I got introduced to like some of these other huge names at Vivint. I think by that time you were already gone because it was 2020. But it was just crazy. I was like, man, I've been pretty close minded. I've been focused on like making the top of my region or making the top of like our division. I haven't even been paying attention to like the other guys in the division in their own company, let alone outside of the company. And so once you hit the top, you started looking at other people. You joined a mastermind group. I guess what was like the catalyst, or what was like the defining moment for you, that you wanted to like really double down on this idea of, I guess, education or inclusivity?
I just saw this industry was fragmented. It's broken. There's a lot of bad, even though it was like painted to be good. Like there were so many people that were doing shady things. There was so much like backbiting, so much two-faced. You probably watched, like you leave a company and it's like you're their poster child, you're their best friend, and then literally within 30 seconds you're their worst enemy, and it's like, are you effing kidding me? Like, like what is this? Like we're humans. Like, and so I'm like, it was really like, I said, can I make a space where we can come together, be friends, cooperate, not like just like friendly competition. Like it's a good, like not bad practice, not bad sales practices, not, and I was like, so that's why we built D2D University. It's like, hey, can we teach good practices, good ethics, good training? And like, we've trained thousands of people now on that platform. And it's like, Door we've had over 13,000 attendees over the years. And it's like, you take like the collective of, where I remember the first VIP dinner night, and I had no idea if this would even work, bro. Like it was like the world was against me, I swear. And we had like 800 people show up, and I was like, no way. And it was like humbling to be like, wow, we actually had people show up to our first event. Like this is cool. And I remember, but I thought the event was cool, but I thought what was cooler was the VIP dinner that night before. And I saw like 5 alarm owners all sitting at the same table that I'm like, I swear half of them had never even met.
Yeah.
But they compete, they steal each other's reps. Like they I'm like, oh shit, like that's a thing. Like, I'm like, no fights broke out yet. Like we're good. Like
they're being civil.
They're being civil. And then later on I hear alliances are created and no competes and I won't steal your reps and truce and all these things. And I was like, oh, this is like a thing. Like we're actually making a difference.
And
you
it
know,
just took getting them in the same room, I
yeah,
suppose.
just got them in the same room. Like when
Give them
else
an
would they be?
excuse.
When
Yeah.
else would they be in the same room?
Exactly.
And
Unless it's
people,
like a courtroom.
yeah, exactly, exactly. They're like, and their
Literally.
legals talk to each other. Like,
Yeah.
bro, I was like, wow, what a cool thing. Like, what if they actually could work things out civilly instead of sending lawsuits? And
Yeah.
it's like this is so crazy.
Yeah.
But like then to that, we built the Golden Door Award where you were like, what is that? And
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, it is the shit. Like, it's every person that hits a certain caliber, like in solar, it's 100 points. So it'd be a half a point for a set that installs, a half a point for a close that installs, or one
Mhm.
self-gen.
Yeah.
And, Mitch, I was at his house, a mutual friend of ours, and he was like, dude, I'm so grateful you created that, because he was in the year 2, he hit a golden door. But he has reps every single year that push as hard as they can to make sure they hit a golden door. It's 1,000 in pest control or 650,000 in revenue.
Nice.
And so him being in pest control, like, there were 4 people on the stage when he was on the stage. Last year there were
Wow.
65 people on the stage in pest control.
Dang.
And so like to see the rising tide lifting
Yeah.
all ships, like it's something outside of his company that pushes his guys, that forces them to go stay out longer, that forces them to work harder. In turn, makes him as a business owner more money,
Yeah, of
creates more
course.
loyalty,
Yeah.
like more clout, a stage for them to stand on that's
Yeah.
greater than just his little company, right?
Exactly. Such a bigger stage, so many more eyes on it. And also it's an achievement that's recognizable across all platforms.
Yes.
Whereas like I might say, hey, I was a part of the dream team, and someone after is like, what the heck is
Yeah,
that?
what is that?
I'm like,
Nobody
well,
cares.
for me, it's a huge deal. Like I saw the sweater there with my name on
Yeah,
it.
you felt like
And
the shit. Like
yeah,
they did a good job to make you feel really cool.
yeah, at that company
Yeah,
though.
at that company,
Anyone else
doing
is like,
that thing.
whatever,
And you're like walking around with this sweatshirt and like Starbucks, and everyone's like, "Cool, dream team." Like, what'd you do? Play in the USA like basketball team? Like, what is that?
exactly.
But that's the thing. Like, companies do a pretty good job, and there's a lot of companies that do a really good job at the dopamine hit.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to a 10-man roofing company, you go to this window company, you go to this
Yeah.
like little pest control company out of Michigan that doesn't even know what like they
Yeah,
don't even know how to put swag together, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and they can all come and unite on the same stage
Yeah.
and say, doesn't matter if there are 5 people in my company or 500 people in my company.
Uh-huh.
We both serviced this many accounts,
Yeah.
and I did it, and therefore it elevated that little guy just as much as the big guy, and it's been really cool to watch.
That is huge. Well, kind of going back to the beginning when you said there, I mean, do you think that when you got it started, it was more of a inner desire to do something, I guess, kind of entrepreneurial, create something, or was it more of like an external desire, truly like a selfless desire to bring everyone together like that?
Truly, like, and you, it's funny you asked that because nobody's really asked me that, because I had no intention to start this. I was probably like you. I was the VP of sales of a solar company, and I finally, after 18 months, had built something to make good money.
Yeah.
So to walk away for negative money was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, this selfish desire. I had zero desire to be an influencer, zero desire to be a coach, I hated social media.
Oh, same.
Like,
yeah.
bro, I'm like sitting here, like, I'm honest to goodness. Like, when I had to pull out my phone and I went to a Gary Vee thing, and he was like, if you don't have a YouTube and a podcast, I was like, oh shit, like I maybe should start a thing.
Yeah.
But like, I felt so uncomfortable pulling out my phone and posting, like, look at me,
Yeah.
because I felt inauthentic, and I've had to come to my senses with that of like, maybe it helps somebody. But like, truly, it was the dumbest financial like moves, like reputational moves. Like
Yeah.
that first year and a half, I made no money for a year and a half, bro. Like,
Wow.
imagine that. Like, you're
Yeah.
like, dude, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And like, I could have made hella money. I mean, I had $1 million offers to say, hey, come over here,
Yeah.
during me making no money. And so when you're like, chase this entrepreneurial thing, I was like, I don't even know what it was. Like,
Yeah.
after DoorDoorCon 1, I remember a guy come up to me and he's like, hey, Sam, like, what are you selling here? I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, how much money are you going to make? I was like, I'm not making money on this. And he's like, so what are you doing next? I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I've been so busy, like, trying to plan this stupid thing. I haven't thought that far, bro. Like,
Yeah. We'll finish this event and
I know,
then we'll figure it out.
I know. It's like, I haven't even thought that far. Like, I have been so stressed trying to freaking make sure that, like, nobody's heads fall off during this thing. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like, people don't realize the amount of work that goes into that.
Oh,
But I'm
gosh.
so grateful. I look back, that's almost 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And I look back and I'm like, man, I'm so grateful I had to go through that journey, because we're sitting in a $100,000 studio right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's not like we're little. It's
No,
not like we're
it's
not
huge.
doing anything,
Yeah.
And what was so cool is like I just hiked 2929, this Everesting thing this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, guess who was there? Calvin Escobedo, who works at the Grit, he's a platinum door winner. You had Austin Elkins, who runs a company called
Oh.
Kin, has
Hmm.
400 reps in solar. Mitch Matthews, who runs a company called Anthem, who is a completely different pest control company.
Yeah.
You had a realtor named Spring. You had, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
there's 7 different people that all do different companies
Yeah.
that are all hanging, hiking, that don't have to recruit each other. And it was
Yeah.
completely authentic. Like,
Yeah.
it was just fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that shit didn't exist before. Like,
No.
this is this weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, what you did, years previous was what sparks this kind of thing, right? And also what helped leaders change their mindset, right? It's the idea like you can create a culture for sales reps, but ultimately that culture is not going to be defined and captured within that company unless the leader accepts it. And so when you have, like you said, like leaders of companies and managers who are embracing this idea of unity, that is what bleeds down into like the rookie that signs up for his first summer. Right.
Yes.
Well, out of curiosity, just because I'm so intrigued with that beginning part and how you got it started, you had this amazing desire. So while you're getting it started, you had $1 million offers, right? How difficult? I mean, it's not like you were hard for money. You had been doing really good in sales for years previous, right? And so for you to step away from making money for a year, was that kind of like a calculated decision? Like, hey, I'm going to try this for a year. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I can always go back to sales. Or did you have a backup plan? Or were you just looking for change?
That was like, that's always like the coolest part about sales is that has to always be in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, dude, if you left and you started a side gig or you went all in on something, if shit hit the fan, you can go create money if you're good.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day,
Yep.
give me a product, I will go knock some doors and I will make a commission. Like
Exactly.
that is the beautiful part about being, I call it, that's the first step of independence and freedom, is knowing I can create financial active income like this.
Yeah.
And that certainty, that knowing of self-sufficiency is so important. So I don't want to discredit that because so many people are like, well, I got to go get a job. Like, I don't know. It's like, I would never go get a job.
No.
I would go sell something. Like,
Yeah.
and I have no doubt in my mind that
Yeah.
I would make money.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter the product, the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to like first say that.
Yeah.
Then it was, I burnt the boats. Like when you're getting $1 million offers and you're making money for a year and a half, you're all in at that point. You're like, cool, there's now amount of money. Like I had Todd Peterson, like call me. He's like, hey man, like I had Binning, I had Baugh, I had Vabel, I had all those guys reach out. When we bring you back to the fold, bro, like, all of that, right? Like, so how's it going? And, it's going. It's like, okay.
You make money?
Yeah.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? But I was so passionate about this mission to unify, up level, bring honor and integrity to the door-to-door space.
Yeah.
And I think when people see your consistency to your passion and you see your discipline to that passion, then all of a sudden they kind of like drop their walls because there was so much adversity. Like I think of like Jeff Mendez was the one that planned the event to attack Door to Door Con.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years later, he spoke at Door to Door Con.
He
You know what I mean? It's like,
and the whole time he was on your stage, he's like, that son of a gun.
yeah, like Todd Peterson agreed to speak at this, like where he was like, I'd never be caught dead at this stupid thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, bro, like,
Yeah.
but when somebody sees your passion, your authenticity, your discipline to being like, oh, that wasn't just like the universe wants to see like, are you just kind of doing something or are you all in?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? They want to see you go past your breaking point, then you get the reward.
Yeah.
And I think that's like what God needed me to see. Like he was like, are you really in? Like, are you really truly authentically doing this? Are you trying to do some like side hustle thing? And that's where a lot of influencers, a lot of people step out. They don't have that same test. They don't have that same discipline. They don't have that same consistency. Mm-hmm. And then they just like shrivel back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like it's the long-term goal as well that helps you not shrivel back, right? Yeah. It's what helps you keep going. So, as an example for this podcast, I just was on my first podcast a couple of days ago. And it was great because I had a chance to like answer some of these questions that a lot of people have been asking me, like, why are you starting a podcast? Why the sales entrepreneur? And I said, well, in my opinion, I say this almost every podcast, but there's got to be a selfish and a selfless reason for everything that you do in life. I
Yep.
think Chris Williamson said that. I got to find out who said that because I quote it way too often. But and for me, it's like, yeah, I want to be able to meet with people who in the industry I kind of look up to, like Sam Taggart and other people. And I want to be kind of selfishly in the same room as them, and I want to bring value to them. But the selfless reason is I want to create a platform for sales guys and entrepreneurs to be able to see what it takes to follow their dreams, follow their passions. And so you being a perfect example, right? You had this passion, say, hey, you know what? I've kind of mastered this door-to-door thing, right? It gets to a point where you've done it for so many years, you've been the top guy for so many years that it's not that it's boring, because door-to-door sales will always challenge you in ways that you don't expect, but it gets a little routine, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And so you finally had this idea like, hey, you know what? I have this passion of training and educating people in the correct way and helping guys become salesmen, like the top tier salesmen. And maybe did you just see that you were too limited in the space of like a manager or regional manager, and that's why you wanted to open it up to like just everybody? You wanted to help as many people as you could?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I can help 100 people. I had about 100 reps at Solstice, and it was like, I can help these 100 guys, but like you said, it's you can only okay. I can get to 150, 200. Cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that's a game to play. But I was like, there's such a bigger world out there where we literally have people globally
Yeah.
that we train. I've been to Australia to consult. I have
Wow.
clients in Japan and Norway and Switzerland, and you'd be shocked. Like,
Yeah.
and what's crazy is people, they underestimate the power of one, social media,
Mm-hmm.
but two, the power of like a big mission. Like
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, you ask the owner of the solar company, you're like, what's your mission? They're like, well, to help people save money on energy. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's cool. Like to
Yeah.
help the planet. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's cool.
Help the
Like,
planet,
yeah, to help the planet. I'm like, well, okay. But I remember going to the owner at Solstice, he's like, first and foremost to make money. I was like, oh, appreciate it. Like the honesty. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool. And like, I saw the customer's joy, but you're like, cool, it's a bill swap. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and I got to the point where I was like, I needed more fulfillment, and I needed bigger impact. I needed bigger challenges. I needed bigger, like you said, networks. I needed bigger, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I did plateau. Like it was like, okay, I could keep doing this on repeat, but it doesn't like fill my cup as much as I need.
Yeah.
And I think like I want to put this is an important piece.
Yeah.
You have to get to the point where you've so mastered and plateaued at one stage. I think people want to skip that.
Yeah.
People don't think they didn't see the 20 plus years I actually did it door to door. Like I did it since I was 11. Like
Yeah.
I mastered it since a very young age. I was really
Yeah.
good at 18 years old. Like
Yeah.
I was kicking ass as a 19,
Yeah.
year old kid. Like,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, who are you? I was like, I just got really good since a young age at the one thing.
Yeah.
And what they want to do is shortcut that. They
Yeah.
want to go and say, I don't have to put in all this work. I don't have to go through my own hell. I don't have to go through my own 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just want to be the influencer. I just want to be the leader. I just want to be
Yeah.
and I'm like, bro, like it doesn't work like that. Like
Yep.
I could take a year and a half with no pay because I had a nice house and I had real estate projects paying me passive income and I
Yeah.
had a safety net, like massive. Like,
Yeah. When they say, well, how big was the risk to leave? It's like, well,
yeah,
I
like-
kind of worked hard, so it wasn't
Yeah.
a massive risk.
I could pay, I built my dream home right then.
Yeah.
But like I lived in a 7,000 square foot home with a basketball court, guys.
Yeah.
And I was fine.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't feel as big of a risk when I'm in my 7,000 square foot home. Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't have that. I had to go through like picking pennies up out of the couch as an entrepreneur. Like I made a smart, calculated decision
Yeah.
knowing that I had money in the bank where so many people were like, I'm gonna be this badass. And I'm like, how about get good at one thing first?
Yeah.
Like, how about like be a badass at the thing you need to be a badass first
Yeah.
before you're like, I'm gonna be this business owner. And I coach hundreds. Like we had 30 business owners last week at our event.
Wow.
And I'm like I've coached so many owners that I'm like, you deserve like, it's not my place, but I'm like, how about just be really good as a sales rep before you just go be an owner, bro? Like,
Yeah.
like how about go make some real money?
Yeah.
And you can make more money even selling
Mhm.
than try to go chase this like thing just to say that you have a logo and a brand.
Exactly.
And I'm like, why'd you start your roofing company? Well, I was mad at the owner. I'm like, so that's why you started the company? Like,
Yeah.
cool mission, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
that's gonna take you real far.
so I tell people sit on a rock longer, meaning
Yeah.
like I just listened to Conor O'Brady, who started 2929.
Oh, okay.
He has 11 world records. You know, he's hiked Everest a few times, all the seven summits, North and South Pole, like crazy cool guy. And I got to hike with him a couple of the laps.
Wow.
And then I was like, wait, what's your book? And he's like, 12-hour walk. And I was like, dude, I should write a book called The 12-Hour Sit. Because every quarter
yeah.
I sit on a rock for 12 hours.
No
Phone, nothing. Just sit on a rock.
Wow.
And the concepts are the same of the 12-hour walk. But it's the go sit with yourself and like ask yourself the real hard questions. Like go sit with yourself and figure out what your real Everest is.
Yeah.
Go sit with yourself and be with yourself instead of like reacting to a thing and then starting a thing and then getting all upset. And it's like that just changes the trajectory of your life, but you didn't really contemplate and like have an intuition to do it. You did it reactively.
Yeah.
So I watch so many people start side hustles or leave or switch companies or, you know, give up when it's like, you haven't sat on a rock for long enough to really make that decision, bro.
Yeah. They're reacting to the circumstances that they're being confronted with instead of sitting on the rock, instead of really contemplating. It's like, hey, this event just happened. How do I want to react? Not just short term, but how do I want to take it long term? Instead, they just react really fast based on like a very short term, maybe. And when we say short term, it could be a year.
Yes.
A year for some people is long. No, that's like very short term if you're thinking like a career change or starting something.
And when I started Door and D2D Experts, it was summer of 2017, and I sat on a rock for 3 days on a meditation fast. There was no thing that happened. Things were going phenomenal.
Yeah.
Where most people make decisions based on when things are going bad. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting on a rock, day 2. I'm like hallucinating because I haven't eaten for like 2 days. And I'm like,
that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. Like, I kid you not. Like, I'm telling you, like, there are a couple sweet spots where it's like, all of a sudden God's like, you need to throw this event. You need to throw this thing and bring the door people together. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. And it just kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. But it was because I was in a place of abundance. I was a place of solitude and real serenity with God. And I said, wait, me? Why me? And I think when it calls, it calls. I think too many people, they don't sit long enough or listen long enough or follow a call. What they do is they follow reaction, like we just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy thing is that you had that intuition, you had that calling, right? And I'm sure you didn't just immediately start, well, you might immediately start taking action, but you also are probably thinking, okay, I have this intuition, I have this calling. How is this going to play out long term? That's usually guys like you and even myself who are looking at doing something kind of major. They get this inkling, they get this idea, and they start taking action. But one of the first steps is looking at the long play.
Yeah.
Right. And so I guess for you, when you were getting it started, you had this idea of throwing an event, but I'm guessing that the one event wasn't the only idea. You were also thinking, okay, maybe not specifically what happened right after that event, but you're thinking, where can I take this? How far can this go? What were some of the ideas that you were having?
Well, we started the online training, and I was like, how do we get every company to adopt a good training platform? And it's sad. Like, we've built out over 750 people's company training platforms, including Centria. Like, we've done some stuff with you guys.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, how do we create and customize and film and edit and really help people hold their hand on, like, because it's like, everybody's like, oh, I'll build it myself. I'm like, it's a lot of things. Like, it's so much work. Like,
yeah, way more than they think.
Yeah, that's why we have Dope Studios. Is because like this week twice I'm refilming new pest control and new solar content. You know, just because we're always adding. Every Tuesday we drop new content.
Yeah.
But I think that's the piece where if I saw the online piece and I was like, man, like training sucks.
Yeah.
Like even Vivint, like I was like,
it was subpar.
It was so overproduced but under quality. Like I was like, but it didn't really.
I know exactly which videos you're talking about.
Yeah, like I was like,
in the home.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, there's 12
videos.
camera video angles, but you cut out half the good stuff. I'm like, and I get it, like, but I just was like, we need better training for this space, and so the online piece was big, and I think we've had close to 60,000 students go through our training academy now.
Wow.
And I've hired a guy that used to run Vivint's training. their VP of training and recruiting and their guy that was their training director to help even revamp, because my goal is to help over 500,000 door-to-door people.
Wow.
And in order to do that, it's like, we got to go get more companies. We got to get more people on there because, and it's got to be more streamlined. So we're revamping kind of D2D 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Then the mastermind, like that kind of stemmed, like the day 2, I'm about to go speak. And a guy named Dan Clark looks at me and he's like, Sam, what are you selling? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, what are you selling on your speech? And he's a speaking trainer at the University of Utah. He trains on public speaking. He's in the Speaker Hall of Fame. Like,
wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's
he's
huge.
he's like, what are you selling on your speech? And he's an older guy. And I was like, nothing. He's like, wait, you put 800 people in this room and you're not selling them shit? I was like,
you have
no.
a literal stage.
Yeah, he's like, you have a platform, bro. Sell them something. I was like, I don't know what to sell. He's like, why don't you come up with like a mastermind or something? I was like, yeah, great idea. So on a napkin, we put together this $30,000 mastermind, bro. And I'd been in masterminds, luckily. And,
yeah. Yeah,
you know,
an idea of like what you would want in a mastermind and so forth.
And granted, I'm the MC, I'm the keynote, I'm the coordinator, I'm the, I'm all these things. I had like barely put my speech together. So I'm like meditating 5 minutes before my speech, had no clue what I was going to speak on. Yeah. He told me to sell this thing. So at the very end, I'm like, all right, who wants in? $30,000. It's going to be this thing. And you have to be a business owner. Meet me at the back of the room. And there's like 4 people that stood up. And I was like, well, that didn't go as like what I thought. Oh shit, I'm the MC. And now we're bringing on Jeremy. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just like, oh, wait, don't go to the back. Like, I mean, stay and have respect for the next speaker. Like, just kidding.
Let me throw on this other hat real quick.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was like, it did not work how I thought it was going to work. I was like, oh, man. Yeah. Anyway, we made a couple bucks, and I was like, that was cool. And but that started our mastermind. So now we call it the League. And we have a sales rep and manager division. We have an owners division. We have a partners division. We have hundreds of people in that group, and we have different levels depending on how intimate you want to get with us. But we're taking probably close to 75. We had 75 people in TD last year. We probably take 75 to 100 people to Croatia this year.
Oh wow!
We got a Mexico trip. Like, we're doing really cool experiences because I do believe in bringing high vibe people together that want to level up, and to have managers and owners and different communities where we watch people double in sales, but also help their marriage. And we watch people get fit and also solve an addiction. And we watch, you know what I mean? Like, it's so cool to like help people beyond just, let me teach you how to run and recruit and teach you how to sell.
The workspace.
And I'm like, no, let me like bring your wife to this and watch her have the transformation just as much as you do.
Yeah.
And like, that's cool to me. And to see the hundreds of business owners that have come through that mastermind over the last 8 years has been really cool. And to watch, like, I look at like RoofCon, that guy was in the group. I look at SolarCon, half those employees that started that were in my group. Nice. I look at Win the Storm, the owner of that, he was in my mastermind. I look at guys that have gone on to write books and start addiction recovery programs. And like, some of those have been stemmed from me making them sit on rocks. And
wow,
you know what I mean?
Literally sit on rocks.
Literally. Like, and so I look at like the impact and the ripple effect of really spending more intimate time with some key people. Like, that has been really cool.
Well, you've kind of, you just keep adding all these amazing things to your space. And that's kind of the cool thing, is that you have like this base platform of education, training, and service.
And we just launched our first knocking app, full stack CRM. We have our own tech. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So you're just adding, and I guess and I think I know the answer, but I'll ask a question. What is your largest underlying, I guess, drive and underlying vision that motivates you to continue to add, continue to grow, and continue to want to help as many people?
So I did this core value exercise a while back, and I think like I would challenge everybody listening to this, like, to do an actual core value exercise where they figure out their personal and they figure out their company. And I think they can be some overlap, but like I've always been a creative guy. Like, I've written probably 100 songs on guitar and piano. Love art. I love making stuff. I built forts as a kid. I made Legos. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, that was like in my DNA. And I think it's in most people's DNA more than they think.
More than they think.
So innovation is one of our core values. So core values are innovation, contribution, unity, and experience. And so for me, I like everybody's like, dude, why do you keep buying businesses and adding products? And like, I just bought a recruiting company.
Oh,
Like, so
yeah.
like, why do you keep doing that? Like, why don't you just stabilize and do your thing? And like, why do you keep breaking this and spending more money on this? And
Yeah.
I'm like, because it's fun.
Yeah.
I could probably make more money if I just simplified. If I cut half my employees, I have 30 something employees. Like
Wow.
I could make more, but I'm like, that's not fun. Like I like
Right.
to create.
Yeah.
I like to reinvest. I like to grow. I like to build. Like I think
Mm.
naturally we like the challenge of that.
Yeah.
And so, the vision is like, dude, we help you recruit. Like we have a recruiting company. We help you train them. We have a training company.
Yeah.
We help you manage them. We have a knocking app and CRM.
Yeah.
We hold your hand. We have experts that go on site. Like I have a guy right now who's in Colorado, a guy next week that goes to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Like they fly out and they go knock with you. They hold your hand. They train
Wow.
with you. I have a team of experts.
Yeah.
Some of them are Golden Door winners. Like they kind of retired, threw in the hat, and they just want to consult now.
Really?
Like JP Arley, who was the VP of training and recruiting, he's here. Like he
Wow.
helps. Like studs. And
Yeah.
so I was like, dude, I don't know what else more we could do than another running your company. We have like high level executive coaching. We have events. We have competitions. We have swag. Like we have all the things.
Yeah.
Like you just need to go knock.
Yeah.
And that's it.
We
Like,
can't knock for you because that's the one
That's
thing
the
that we,
one thing.
if we did it, we'd just make the money ourselves. But
yeah. And we would probably make hella money. Like I know we would. But I'm like, we will literally start to finish help you scale your company, help you scale you as a sales rep. Like we have, from sales training all the way to business owner training. We have playbooks from sales leadership and recruiting. We have,
Yeah.
it's fun. And like I have a book coming out in January called Eat What You Kill, which is it's published by Penguin Random House, but it'll be a cool launch and it's on pre-sale right now. If anybody wants to go get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever, Eat What You Kill, Becoming a Sales Carnivore. But I think this becomes bigger than just door to door. Like when I go speak at real estate conference or I have an HVAC conference or this conference, like this weekend I'm in Dallas, and what like I come to find is today's economy needs more hustlers. Today's economy needs more sales guys that are actually polished and hungry. Today's economy needs to not be so dependent on a Google analytics and a Facebook algorithm. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And I think the more that we can help recreate carnivores in the society today, the more it creates that self-independence. I think there's a mental health problem because people don't have this sense of accomplishment of doing a hard thing and then achieving something where they're like, ooh, a spoon-fed lead on my calendar that I didn't have to do shit for. Like,
didn't do anything.
Like,
exactly.
And it's like, I didn't sell them. Oh no. And the owner's over here like, I gave you 100 leads. Like, they're beating their head against the wall. And I'm like, how sad is it that why we have such a depression, anxiety, mental health problem issue is because people are avoiding the hard things. And door to door, what I love about it is a grind.
It is a grind.
It's you have to get your face kicked in, the emotional resilience. And I think beyond just our community of door to door people, it surfaces. Like I was with Jesse Itzler's wife, Sarah Blakely. She got her start in door to door. She's a multi-billionaire. Like you have people like Mark Cuban and people like you look at like, okay, nothing happens till a sale is made. And if you're not willing to go get your ass put your ass on the line, get rejected, go hunt, we're missing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that is often missed in our industry as well is that you have to, if you don't put in the work, the satisfaction is so low. And so people think, oh, well, I just need to pay for more leads or I just need to recruit more bodies. And they look for a lot of, because in our industry, there's a lot of ways to make money. Well, I should say there's a few ways to make money outside of actually knocking the physical door yourself. And I feel like a lot of people put more time into recruiting or they put like lead generation instead of actually like knocking the door. But like you're kind of saying is that your whole company, your whole brand is geared towards motivating, inspiring, and training and helping the root of the industry, which is knocking the doors, right? And so you're growing and you're helping people mentally and physically, but at the same time, you're also encouraging the base level. Hey, you got to get out there and you got to grind. If you're not grinding, then all this work up here that we're doing is just kind of like supplementary to nothing unless you're doing the grind. Right? And so I guess one thing that people will say is as they're growing and scaling a company and adding and adding and adding, you never want to be a company that is like the jack of all trades and master of none. And so I guess what helps you guys stay true and stay really good at providing like high level value across all of the different additions that you're adding to the space.
It just takes time. It's like we we have our three pillars: sales, leadership, and recruiting.
Hmm.
So you kind of have to filter it through. Does it align with our mission? Unify, uplevel, bring honor, integrity to the door space. Then you filter it through your core values. Is it innovative? Is it what's the experience that they're going to have? What's the contribution it's making? Like we have a Street Smarts like youth division, and it's like, oh, we're trying to give back there. We do charity, like we're taking, solar to a hospital in Sierra Leone to
Oh,
help, power the hospital because 1 out of 18 women died in childbirth, and it's like we're
wow.
raising and doing a golf tournament in August
Mhm.
for that. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, is there a contribution being made? Is there an unity? Meaning, am I discluding? Like, we have partners like Sales Rabbit and Enzy and it's rep cards of the world, but we also
Mhm.
launched a knocking app. And I'm like, hey guys, it's not to exclude you. I'm not trying to like, you each have your thing that you fill.
Yeah.
Mine is very different
Mhm.
and it's going to fill that, but I'm not excluding you. You can still come to my event. You can still, like, I'm not saying like you can't have a vendor spot. Like, you can't be my partnership league. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
want you to win. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to put you out. Like, so like, as we pilot these things, like, I buy a recruiting company that does lead generation for recruits. It's not like I'm headhunting your people to
Oh.
pull from you. I have a campus recruiting strategy that gets
Mhm.
Facebook leads from campuses that have nothing to do with door to door at a low cost.
Oh,
That's
okay.
very different than
Yeah.
I have a headhunter sending DMs to other pest control guys. I'm like,
Yeah.
if
Very
if
different.
that was their strategy, I'd be like, no, I don't support that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
I had to run a line of like, what fits recruiting, and I have recruiting bootcamp, recruiting summit, recruiting company, recruiting software. I actually sold it. Like, so it's like, what is in that line? Sales. I have a sales playbook or a sales bootcamp. I have a sales summit. I have like, sales trainers,
Yeah.
and then leadership. I have a business bootcamp. I have expert consulting. Like,
Mhm.
so you kind of say like, does it align in these categories? And
Mm.
then it's like, doesn't matter the industry. Like we had at our sales bootcamp last week, we had permanent lighting, we had
Oh,
uh, real estate, mortgage company, we had, things that you'd be
wow.
like, what? They sell, you'd think pest control and solar and those things, but like
Yeah.
we had industries that you wouldn't even think of, like
Mm.
window cleaning and turf, and
Yeah.
you're like, wait, people sell water softener door to door, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, they crush. Like
Yeah. Like,
Kirby
yeah.
vacuum is still a big
It's
thing.
still a thing. Run into them every once in a while out
Yeah,
there. Yeah, usually have like their shirt and ties on, right?
yeah.
Well, does it surprise you how big the industry really is? I think that a lot of times people, especially from Utah, they look at the big companies, Sunrun, Vivint, Aptiv, and they think, oh, okay, those are the big companies, those are the majority of the salesmen, and there's like a bunch of little small companies. One thing that I am continually surprised in, especially since I've started this brand and I've started reaching out to more people, and I've had a lot of people actually reach out to me, is how massive the sales space is. And not only in door to door, I guess in all sales, but specifically in door to door. Like I've greatly underestimated across the nation, I guess even the world, how big of a space is. Does it surprise you at all? Like have you
Every
seen,
day it keeps surprising me.
yeah. Is it something that you kind of foresaw when you're getting started, how big you could possibly, like, have you already surpassed all the milestones that you thought that this company could achieve? Or when you're kind of getting started, did you envision something even bigger?
No, I thought it's definitely changed. Like I thought it was Utah and like a lot of my clients would be Utah based. It flipped and it was like I very rarely help people in Utah.
Hmm.
It's much bigger outside of Utah is how I service. And I think it's because Utah still to this day carries an ego, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but I had hawks in our office last week. I had,
Nice.
I had 3 Utah companies I was hiking with last week. Like it's
Yeah.
not that I don't. It's just I'm finding it just is way bigger than what I thought it was.
Yeah. And that's amazing. I mean, that helps with the growth too, right? You want to take this thing as big as you can possibly get
Yeah,
it.
we're not even scratching the surface. Like I finally feel like we have stabilized team.
Hmm.
Because it's like one thing to be like kind of a solopreneur with a couple employees.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to be like, this is D2D Experts. It's not Sam Taggart University. It's not
Yeah.
like it's not about me. Like, and I think that's the piece that people need to realize. Like, it's a door to door con is not SamCon. D2D University is not Sam University. I have tons of other trainers in there. Like,
Yeah.
I have consultants that travel around. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Chase or Jake or Andy or whoever is going out to consult. It's like, these are vetted, trained process that they're better than I am in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's the D2D podcast. I haven't even hosted my podcast in a long time,
Oh.
simply because it's not about Sam.
Mm.
And I think that we are just finally stabilizing to where it's like, oh, let's how do we go get to 500,000? How do we go get 5,000 people at the conference, not 3? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where we're at.
Yeah. Well, I guess kind of to wrap things up, I was hoping like for the listeners out there, maybe some advice. I mean, so many guys that me and you know, and I'm sure a lot of people that come to you as well, they want help in the door-to-door space, but they also have this ambition and desire to create, to maybe be more than a solopreneur. I like how you said that, by the way. I don't think I've heard that term before. I've heard of like entrepreneur, intrapreneur, entrepreneur, and then solopreneur. I like that. So to the person out there, or the rep out there, the manager or whoever who wants to create, wants to do more, but is in the door-to-door space because of all the reasons that we know it's really good, what would you advise them to do to figure out, maybe find more fulfillment, or to figure out what their purpose is? Do you have any kind of advice for those guys?
Yeah. So, like, if you're getting an itch, like I always get, hence why I just bought another company last week, which is stupid. Um, Real estate's your first thing, like, in my opinion. Like, I can do what I can do because I built such a safety net in real estate. I've made more money in real estate over the last 8 years doing this than I have doing this.
Nice. Yeah.
So, what I'm trying to get at is the first thing you should get passionate about is building wealth, not like fun little frizzy things. Because I guarantee the first 5 things you start, you probably don't finish. Like, if you have these active incomes in door to door, and then you go start a side hustle, like I had a baby romper company, and I had this other thing, and I had the vanilla message, and it's still running. But like, I built and bought a couple tech companies, and they didn't go anywhere. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, you're gonna keep your active income high, and go build net worth through real estate.
Yeah.
Then you're like, well, that's not interactive and community based and fulfillment based. So then the next thing I do is figure out how you can, one, make a difference or be part of a community that doesn't have to just be within your company. So that's why our masterminds are so powerful. Like, it helps people find community. It helps people find, this guy only likes me because I'm making money for him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the second I
absolutely.
stop
Yeah.
making him money, he really doesn't even care about me.
Yeah.
And you'll realize that
The
real quick.
friendship is gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And so you're like, how about you build real relationships, maybe outside of people that just make money on you, and that's the reason they're your friend.
Yeah.
So fulfillment comes through connection.
Yeah.
Fulfillment comes through accomplishment. Fulfillment, like, that might be hike Everest, like I just did. Like, that fulfillment comes really through achieving and accomplishing. And, so the question is, can you, start achieving where you're at better? Like, don't be the average guy.
Yeah.
Be better at what you do, meaning get better training, get better results, get better outcomes. 2, can you go create community that's not just like inauthentic within your company? 3, can you go have like a game you play with yourself to go create wealth, not just you have money, you spend it, you buy shit. Like, that's what most reps do, and it's pathetic.
Yeah.
And so I think, and then the other one is why people are unfulfilled is because they haven't had real a sense of like serenity with themselves. Like, they haven't found themselves.
Yeah.
And so go sit on a rock. Like, I'm telling you, like, put your phone away, go sit for 12 hours, because it takes about 3 to 4 hours for your creative mind to start. Yeah. Meaning, without distraction, without disruption. When was the last time you actually sat down for 3-4 hours? No, nothing.
Yeah.
Most people would never say never. Like,
never. Yeah.
So it's
without
like
a phone, nothing.
With nothing. And so it's like, sit for 3 to 4 hours, and all of a sudden your creative mind starts to juice. So when you're like, I need to find that, most people have never sat long enough to find it.
Yeah. Well, I think that in our space too, people are told what they are. They're told that they're dogs, they're killers, they're grinders, and they're told so much of what they are until they can sit down and meditate and think, and then they can finally listen to who they actually are, right? Because you'll tell yourself if you give yourself the time to do it. And the funny thing, I could just echo what you just said barely. I mean, from my own personal example, that's the same thing. You get to a point where you get really good at the thing that you're doing, And then that frees up time usually to be able to do other things like the real estate. Now I agree with the real estate because I mean Robert Kiyosaki said the two ways to actually build wealth is entrepreneurship or investing. And frankly, investing with what we do in real estate is the easiest and best thing. The education is free. You can get it pretty much anywhere. You can teach yourself how to invest smart, put in that time. And so that's what I did as well. I invested in Airbnbs. I invested in duplexes. And then the cool thing is once you kind of fill that cup, and it has like a creative mindset. It gets you excited, something else that you're doing outside of just the door to door. But then you get to a point where that almost becomes like, hey, like if a deal comes up, I can evaluate it pretty quickly and I can decide if I want to invest or not. Same thing like with the door to door space. Like, hey, I've gotten really good at knocking and I'm really good at figuring out a market and selling really proficiently in it. So then once you're done with the real estate and you have like this passive income and you have like this great portfolio, I feel like that really opens up. It takes out all the stress of the money. It takes out all the stress of hey, I have to do this because I have to eat to live. And then that really frees up your mind, kind of like you're saying. And you can go sit on the rock and you can really figure out, okay, without money being involved in my decisions whatsoever, who am I? What do I want to do? What am I missing here to get that sense of fulfillment? And that's ultimately what I did as well. I joined a men's group, a coaching group.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of money.
Yeah, invest in yourself.
Yeah,
I have many,
that's exactly
whether it's
it.
mine
Yeah.
or it's a men's. Like I don't care. Like I have like 4 coaches. I'm in 2 masterminds. I host 4 different masterminds. Like
Yeah,
because it's freaking dope.
it's awesome. It does cost a lot of money. And so again, you have to have those first 2 things, like be really good at what you do and have like a good stable income so you can invest in yourself. A lot of times people do just start investing in themselves like kind of first before they have those other 2 things figured out. And that's not bad, but then again, you'll creep back into the making decisions based off of money. It's like if you can get to the point where, again, if you're really good at what we do, that you're not stressed about the money part of it, then you can make decisions, and getting four coaches is amazing. And that's the idea, is invest in yourself. And I mean, Sam did it, I do it, and I'm investing in myself more than I ever have in my entire life. And it's helping me I can't even put into words how much it helps. Like if you think back to the first summer or the second summer, right? And hopefully you had a good manager who, kind of held your hand a little bit and worked with you. Like that coaching and training that you had, and maybe you don't have that and you rely on door-to-door university to get that, but that feelings that you got of like being coached and hitting milestones can be replicated at the highest of levels, even in what we do, if you have the right coaches and mentors in place.
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't have done it without, like I said, 4 coaches, multiple masterminds. Like
Yeah.
I've been since 2015 is when I joined my first. Like
Yeah. It's just the best thing ever. And so I think that you hear Grant Cardone, you hear people talk about investing in yourself, and they've been talking about it for years and years and years. I think just now, I mean, the coaching space online is getting to the point where it's very, very popular, but I think now people are really starting to echo like us how important it is and how helpful it is. And I mean, you already have a coaching group, and I'm sure that'll just continue to grow and grow. Um, and yeah, I think that's kind of been the missing key for a lot of people to figure out what it is that's going to help them move the needle in their own life, what it's going to help them bring the most fulfillment in their own life, right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm just so excited to see where your door-to-door brand, I mean, door-to-door university, everything just keeps growing. It sounds like there's really no end to it, huh? Is there any kind of project that's up and coming next that you're most excited about? I mean, you did just buy a company last week. I don't know if that's the next one.
No, for 2.5 years we've been building a human development system. It's an
Mm,
app that is called Expand, and it's finally the first version might come out next month, which will be kind of cool.
great.
But it's basically a way for managers to better lead their people and have
Mm.
like that interaction. And then the second thing we've just been building out is like an AI clone of me, essentially.
Oh,
So we've
okay.
trained it with over 400 hours of content.
Wow.
And so it's got a repository where you can ask it a question, and it's my AI avatar that can respond back and then prompt you to like actual coach you. It's
Wow.
pretty dope. Like
Yeah. That is, has anyone else done that in the
Um,
space? Or like,
yeah,
where'd you get
there's a
that
few.
idea?
There's a guy named Eric Worre. So a guy out of London built this software for the last 7 years, and
Hmm.
I got approached because there's a guy named Eric Worre that does what I do in the multi-level marketing space.
Oh,
So he's like, hey, you do what he does, but in door to door. Can I like use you as a test pilot and like help you pilot in this?
oh,
I was
okay.
like, okay. So we've been
Nice.
building that for a minute. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So we're doing some cool tech plays, and
Yeah.
the CRM's a kind of a fun new launch. So we had a soft launch like a month ago
Hmm.
and got too many customers. And now we're like, okay, another soft launch we'll do in a month. Like,
Yeah.
so it'll be fun.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, honestly, to all the people like myself and all the managers out there, we're just, grateful for your brand and grateful for the steps you took. Again, it's not, I mean, when you got started, it wasn't necessarily like a financial risk per se, but like a reputation risk for sure. I mean, the amount of adversity that you had at the beginning is pretty, I mean, I witnessed it firsthand. And
Yeah.
so the fact that you took those steps to try something new and try something hard, it's paid tenfold. And guys like me and others out there are just grateful for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing more. And I'm sure that, a couple years down the line, we can meet up again and you'll have 1,000 other things that we can talk about.
Perfect. Love it.
Appreciate
Keep
it.
it up. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Cool
That was
beans.
great, dude.